And based on how the last one moved, like I'm not 100% sure if I should be taking this one, but FAFO. And we're back. How are you guys doing today? Me, I am filled with a strange mixture of both sadness and happiness because I can officially confirm that I'm too small to be wearing a 3XL. Because it is day 94 of the cut. We're down to 239, which is freaking awesome because the whole goal right now is to get light enough, get lean enough that I can build up better and have a little bit of a rebound into being a really freaking good 242. But the problem with that is that I'm starting to feel like very small and borderline frail. And what I'm telling myself about that is that right now, it does not matter how I feel or how I think I look. What matters is that I continue doing what is necessary to reach the end goal. So I guess that means we are embracing the very skinny fat phase of this diet where I am depleted enough that I don't feel fantastic and my muscles look very flat, but I'm also not lean enough to have those muscles look kind of cool. So we got to just kind of dig in and get through it. But today is my speed squat and max effort deadlift day. Almost didn't make it in the rack. So let's check the plan on the team activated My Strength Book integration to figure out what the hell I'm doing today. And what I gave myself for speed squats is going to be a little bit of a load step up from last week because last week's pauses on the SSB felt really freaking good. And the plan for max effort deadlifts, I'm going to keep a little bit secret from you guys for now, but trust me, it's going to be worth the wait because that plan is fun. And if you guys want to follow along with the exact same programming that I'm running right now, you can find her inside the Team Activated programming app. And disclaimer, you probably shouldn't be following along with the exact same programming that I'm running during this sad diet phase. But we also have a lot more better program options in there for your specific needs. And like, I know I am pumping the team stuff freaking hard right now, but I'm only doing it because it is so freaking sick what we're able to accomplish in there. And it is so much freaking fun for me to be able to help people in there. Because it's like a guy will hop in there with something that he's been struggling with for weeks, months, years. Then I'm able to look at what they're doing, talk about what they're doing, figure out what they need to be doing better just like that. And then they get better. And it is fun to see. And in a way, for me, that's like confirmation that the level of obsession I've carried with powerlifting for the last 50 years hasn't been a total waste. And I'll shut up about it right after this, but if you guys are on the fence, I am going to be ramping up prices to make sure that I can give everyone as much individual attention as I possibly can, starting April 1st. So hop in before that happens and you'll save a little bit of money. Anyways, no Tyler today, so we're going to cook the rest times. Forgot that I programmed myself doubles this week, damn it. Never mind, Tyler just showed up, so means we gotta really hustle, so I'm done before it's his turn to go. Scary talking, walking out this bar, FYI. Forgot that I'm supposed to do doubles on another set. And I don't know, I guess it's been too many weeks of triples in a row and my brain is too depleted to be able to comprehend just counting to two. So I figured at this point I'll just do 4 threes instead of 5 doubles. Okay, one more. Woo! And I think like the biggest benefit of pushing the cardio as hard as I am right now is that I'm in good enough shape that I can get through speed squats with freaking quick rex times and like be out of breath, feel like I'm working hard, but not feel like I'm at immediate risk of death. And now it's time to get the sleeves ripped off so we can move on to those max effort deads. But something I'm always getting asked about speed work is like with the loading prescriptions being so relatively light, like I'm giving myself 40% of a conservative training max right now. And like on paper, it probably shouldn't be that hard to squat that protocol. Like 5-3s at 330-ish with that bar set up, like it ain't bad at all. But the goal with speed work is because it's light, like we still need to get something out of it to make it worth doing. So your job when doing speed work is to carry the highest mental intent and the highest physical intensity that you can while moving that lightweight, so that lightweight is treated like it's a heavyweight. And if we treat that lightweight like it's a heavyweight and smash it over and over again, we're getting so much good practice in to get better at smashing heavyweights, and that's where the true carryover for speed comes from. I know people like want to talk about the acceleration, the force. That isn't the thing. It is the practice up here that you get from attacking that bar over and over and over again. Anyways, point is that if you're going to be trying speed work, the most important thing that you need to do is freaking try. And the fun plan I had for the max effort pulls is I brought in my chopped up stall mat, so I'm going to be able to run a little bit of a block. Blooper reel. And the intent with running the block pulls here today is that if I can make it a little bit more positionally easier on myself, I should hopefully be able to make it a little bit more so that I can like actually contract against the weights better. Yeah, I got the height figured out by the third. Also want to be very clear that I absolutely hate the pink liquid chalk because it gets freaking everywhere and takes so long to dry, but I'm just using it because I've got it. Yeah, that's nice. Also, the shorts are much nicer than pants for pulling because I'm not snagging my fingers on the legs when I get above the knees, but they're also much less nice for pulling because I am absolutely murdering my shins right now. Maybe murdering is an overstatement, but it doesn't feel fantastic. Woo! Man, it's so freaking weird right now because I swear with the weight loss, like my fingers are getting less fat and I'm able to set my hook better, and it's kind of cool. And figuring with that, 565 will be an appropriate jump. And I'm thinking based on the last video that I might be using the block to like let myself sneak a little bit wider than I should, so to make sure that I set up a little bit narrower than I want to next set. Because the problem with the stance is that I'm used to gauging my width based on where the rings are on the bar in relation to my shins, but when the bar is higher, they're going to be at a different spot on my shin. So if I go like for the same shin to ring ratio, I'm going to be a little bit over wide, so we'll sort that out. Kind of felt like shit, but also very light today, so I don't know. And watching the tape back, I think the block is doing exactly what I want it to do, because it looks like having the bar a little bit higher is taking them quads out of the equation and making it harder on the old adductors and butt cheeks. So I figure we'll go lazy loading with a quarter to get 605 on the bar. And based on how the last one moved, like, I'm not 100% sure if I should be taking this one, but FAFO. Stoked. That was good. So we found out that that was probably the okay call for loading today. Probably shouldn't go up again, though. And like, the reason that I'm stoked is this actually ties my best ever sumo from this height, which I know is very sad, but to be able to do that when I feel the way that I do, when I'm as light as I am, I can be at least a little bit happy with that. Okay, got all that tracked in the app. Now it's time for some sumo stiff legs. And I didn't mention it yet today because it's not in the way enough to get in the way or need to worry too much about on the main work. But I definitely did overcook myself a little bit on that Gurgle machine on the weekend, and my left adductor magnus is a tiny bit pissy. So I think the goal with the sumo stiffs is to kind of keep it at the 315, try to make that adductor magnus work while seeing if we can make it feel better as we go through the set. And if we do that, we might go up. If it feels decent enough and I'm like, want to make sure we're on the safe side, I'll probably stay here. So let's see how we do. We can go up. And I know I say this all the time, but if something does hurt, you don't want to avoid it. You want to use it, but you want to use it in a way that encourages it to feel better throughout the set. So hopefully the 365 isn't overcooking things in that regard. Yeah, that's nice. Yeah, I'm okay with that. Next up, we got the sloppy rows again this week. And because I'm less worried about the adductor sensitivity here, just gonna start at 365, and if it goes good, we'll go up. I freaking hate programming these after sumo, just because like the first pull to the top reminds me how much better conventional always feels. Definitely cheating. I don't know if that was good enough to go up. It's like, part of me does want to go 385, but I think if I went 385, the sloppy road would get too sloppy, so we'll just leave her there. Okay, round two, hopefully slightly less shitty. Yeah, and right now, maybe I am just being a pansy, but I'm very tempted to make that a machine row next week. And what I have written down in the program app for me next is 45-degree back extension. I've been running the Ass Blaster 9000 this slot, but the reason I have 45 back extension written in the program is that not everyone has one of these things, so I want to give you something that can be a decent pivot. And on that note, I'm going to be running a little bit of a pivot option myself because I still do want to touch glute well, but while I'm doing it, I also want to make sure that I'm touching some of that adductor control over hip roll, and the Landmine single leg RDL is a really sick option to get more of that than I would on just the direct ass machine. So we're running these. And I can definitely tell how much this left hip doesn't want to roll right now, so this will be very good for me. We'll go up though, after we warm up the right side, of course. And the reason I love the Landmine or T-bar row for these is it makes it really easy to push off the inside of my foot to lever myself against the machine. And it really works well for getting that adductor, glute med, all the bullshit working together. Type intent. Okay, goal is smoother. That's actually so much better than the first set. I think the lesson here is that I probably need to be less lazy in the coming weeks and just make myself do more unilateral shit. Oh. And now we'll go tracker, figure out what's next. I mean, I know what's next already, but I just want to pretend I'm looking to know what's next like I didn't write the program myself. Which is, we are hopping on to this really nifty guy, and the reason this guy is really nifty is that the strength curve is super bottom end heavy, super top end light, and a lot of leg extensions like aren't built that way because it's harder on the knees. But I think that for my case and where I want to develop more knee extension strength being in the bottom end to support my squat and drive out of the bottom of the deadlift, I think this is going to be a pretty good move for me, especially because it's going to be way less systemically fatiguing than if I were to run a big machine squat variation on this day. But with the strength curve on this thing being as gnarly as it is, not forcing loading, making it like a squeezy, pumpy, get jacked kind of intent, even if the popular opinion on getting jacked right now is just heavy mechanical tension. I'm still like treating it like you typically think a bodybuilder would treat a leg extension if the bodybuilder's kind of being pansy, because that's what I'm doing right now. Anyways, I'll just shut up and crank this set out and get a nice pump before we add a little bit of load for the next one. And that actually caught up pretty damn fast. Moved the camera over here in hopes that you guys can see the level of quad striation we got going on. I have no idea if the camera's high enough, but trust me, they look kind of neat in the mirror, so I'm at least okay with it. Like, this is like the one body part where I don't have excessive skin right now, so this is like what's giving me hope that as I continue dropping pounds and as I fill back out after I'm done dropping pounds, that the situation will be a lot better looking than it currently is. So we gotta keep on cranking if we ever want to see that. Oh, one more. Oh. Adequate effort. Now we're moving on to the thing that I'm really not looking forward to doing today, because we are revisiting the Thigh Squeezer 9000 with the goal of trying to desensitize that adductor a little bit further. And with that, I am going very, very, very light, trying to go very, very, very controlled, get a little bit of length, really squeeze out. I'm just trying to be like as precise as I can and trying to feel the area that feels sketchy working without making it feel more sketchy. And if I do that well enough, it's gonna feel better than it did at the end of the set than it does right now. So we'll just do some reps until it feels nice. Probably gonna cut through this because I have no idea what to say with how long this set's gonna take, so I don't wanna bore you guys too much, but apparently I'm still rambling, so. And I guess like what's cool about this intent is like at the beginning of the set, that spot where it felt sketchy like really didn't want to work. But by this point, I'm catching a little bit of pump around those fibers, starting to get some better feel, some better contraction quality. And that's telling me that I'm doing a good job of desensitizing the region. And the key here is that I don't want to keep pushing it till where it starts to feel sketchy again. So probably gonna shut it down here and take a short rest, and we'll go for another round with the same type of intent. Alrighty, round number 2. And I don't know if you guys can see this in the vlog, but it definitely feels like I am freaking fading hard pretty much like the moment I set down the bar on that top set of the Sumo block pulls. It's just been like energy just brrr. And I know I talked about this a couple weeks ago, but I decided to do a pretty big pullback in my exercise slots, my training volume, just because I was kind of thinking that like with how I was feeling was getting in the way of letting training be productive. And with that volume pullback, it's like everything life-wise got so much freaking easier. And with life getting so much freaking easier, like I'm pushing harder on the cardio, I'm pushing harder on the diet, I'm pushing harder on work as well. And I think it's like all that cumulative push, it might be time, like I was saying, to like drop that road out to something easier, maybe get rid of my barbell secondary stuff and just go into something machine secondary to make that a little bit easier. I don't want to drop too much more volume than this too soon, but I also need to remember that like the biggest goal is making sure that training is productive and making sure that I'm not smashing myself so hard on a single session that I'm getting into the next session. So yeah, I think we probably will have a little bit more back off come in the next couple of weeks to just make sure that everything's trending the way that it needs to be trending, and I'm not just digging myself in a giant recovery hole. And that's probably enough work here too, because thing is actually feeling decent, and I want to leave it feeling decent and not push it way too hard again and make it feel like shit for Saturday. And last but not least for today, we are going to be back on the using the glute machine wrong way hip flexor raise, albeit a little bit lighter than we ran on the weekend, because even if I don't think that this thing is what created the sensitivity, it does still feel like a little bit vulnerable in that like end range hip extension. So another thing that I kind of want to touch with that desensitization type intent, just to make sure it's working, because if I can make sure it's working and encourage it to work today, it's probably going to work more better tomorrow and the next day, and so on and so forth. I think that's like the biggest thing that I have to be mindful of during this dieting phase is like, if I figure out something really freaking cool machine wise that I'm not used to training, I probably need to have a little bit of restraint, so I'm not just like cooking the thing that I'm not used to training way too freaking hard and making something feel worse than it is. So yeah, gotta still keep working on that lifter maturity type stuff. But this is another thing that we got feeling much less vulnerable by the end of the set than the beginning. So it means we're loading it well, touching it well. We'll just keep on loading and touching till we get a nice little pump, and that'll be enough to kind of do what I need to do. Because again, like hip flexors, they don't need to be super freaking strong to do their job on squat, bench, and deadlift. They just need to be good at stabilizing pelvis against hip extension so that we can extend hips harder and not just have our pelvis fling across the room and we have a shitty, crumply squat. So a little bit of wake up stuff is all they really need. But once I'm kind of past the waking up stuff, obviously I want to try to make these more strong again, because if what I did on Saturday was enough to make the hips weird, we definitely got to do a better job of continuing to build that up. Yeah, that was at least some decent touching. And like with everything that I've been talking about towards the end of this session, with how I'm fading and I'm being cautious in my loading and movement intent to make sure that I am not creating more sensitivity that's going to bleed into further sessions, like that's kind of why at the beginning I was saying that if you are going to hop the team and use the programming app in there, you probably don't want to follow along with the program that I am running, because right now this program is pretty much targeted towards someone who is feeling very, very, very tired when they're in the gym, and it's probably going to get a little bit more towed back from here, like I was saying, because Like my biggest priority right now with training, like obviously I want to hold on to strength, but I also want to make sure that I'm holding on to tissue as well as I can. And if I'm trying to hold on to strength too hard and I'm pushing the barbell stuff too hard, doing too much barbell stuff, that's going to get in the way of the accessories that I'm running to be able to hold on to tissue to finish out this cut. And I really don't want to be losing tissue in the short term, because losing tissue in the short term, even if I'm pushing barbell work harder to kind of let that happen, losing tissue in the short term through the cut is going to make it much harder to have strength in the long term when calories come back in. So like I was saying, we probably are going to be pulling back a decent chunk more here shortly. And obviously I don't want to just like go straight to nothing, but there will be a point where things do get toned down pretty aggressively pretty soon, because like thinking about how much I still have to lose, like 239 this morning, we are still a long freaking way. Like it wouldn't surprise me if I'm like sub 205 by the time I'm done with this bullshit, so we can get some rebound going and not turn into a fat ass through the rebound process. So point is, like, I'm sharing what I'm doing so you guys can learn what I'm doing, but that doesn't necessarily mean that you need to be doing the exact same things that I'm doing. It's just that you want to maybe apply some of the thought process that I am to my situation, to your situation, so you can figure out how to do that better. But I think that is what I got for today, guys. So thank you so much for watching. See ya in tomorrow's vlog.